in India, only 8% of the Indian population has borrowed money from a formal source.
And the impact that you've created in the MSME micro entrepreneur segment, I think more than 20,000 women entrepreneurs have been funded by Moneybox over the last 5 years.
So lending has always been a relationship business. At the end of the day, it is a relationship between the borrower and the lender.
Retail lending in India is more consumption driven. Today at Lending Insights, we'll be talking about a very unique approach to lending, which is impact lending. And here we have today MAYUR Modi, who is the co-founder of MoneyBox Finance. MoneyBox Finance is a Bombay-based NBFC, having impacted more than 2 lakh lives in the last 4 years. Present in about 50 cities and about 6 states, they've funded more than 35,000 MSMEs, and the impact that they've created is far-reaching. So let's talk about impact funding and how MSMEs can be provided the credit they need to better their livelihoods. Hi, Mayur.
Thank you, Rahul. Thank you for having me.
It's great. The kind of work Moneybox is doing is far-reaching. As I said, the impact that you guys are creating, we've been reading about it, but I think take this opportunity to directly hear it from you. How Moneybox came about and why MSME as a segment intrigued your mind.
Thank you, Rahul, again. I think so. When we talk about MSME, I think it's a very broad spectrum of industries that we cover, or the kind of so it's very broad MSME, so to say. But what we focused on is the micro part of the MSME. If you look at our approach to lending, if you look at our business model, if you look at what we want to do, we said that we will do the micro part of the MSME, and even micro is a huge
the largest part of the MSME is the micro.
Is the micro part, and micro by MSME definition is up to 5 crores. But what we do is we do lending in the 1 to 10 lakh category, so which is the smallest part of the micro, so as to say. And below that, if you go, it is MFI. To be honest, so the way we have positioned ourselves is something like an MFI plus segment, where you start with an MFI loan, anybody who wants to get into formal credit, and then
you progress
to the next level, which is the MFI plus, which we call the micro lending, or the micro entrepreneurs, who have the ability to kind of generate cash flows on their own,
revenues,
and then make it a profitable business.
This segment is definitely not seen by the banks as a credit worthy borrower set, right? The micro segment, and that's where you found out this niche in terms of understanding the needs of these micro entrepreneurs. So how does it pan out to be? Do you think this is a segment that is largely credit understaffed, or there are products coming in the segment to fund their credit needs?
So let me take you back in terms of the credit landscape of India. If you look at credit in India, only 8% of the Indian population has borrowed money from a formal source, and 42% of India has borrowed money at some point in time, whether formal or non-formal. So what it says is that almost half of India has not borrowed at all, and only 8% of India has borrowed through formal source. So that is a huge opportunity in the rural segment, which we see. So rural segment actually contributes. Rural India actually contributes 47% to the India's GDP, and their share of credit in the Indian context is only 9%. So there's a huge diversion. There's huge divergence in terms of what they contribute to the GDP and what they can borrow as a credit. So that was something which intrigued us in terms of me and Deepak when we started this, saying that there's a huge opportunity here. Now, how do we tap this opportunity? Why isn't anybody actually going out and tapping this opportunity? And that's when we realized that it's not easy to kind of fund these businesses, because the traditional mindset is to kind of have documents, have some kind of credit history, a banking transactions, or some kind of GST. Now that GST is there, some kind of a GST records. But these entrepreneurs or smaller businesses that we are talking about have none of those. So how do you actually go about and kind of fund these industries or smaller entrepreneurs? So the only way to do it is to be with them, understand them, be with them, understand their cash flows, understand how do they actually conduct their businesses, what is the cycle of cash flows, what are the incomes and expenses that they generate, or expenses that they incur in their businesses. And that is, we took the harder route in terms of building a model wherein not only doing it through technology. Use of technologies is something which is very relevant in this segment, but it has to be a phygital approach. We said that we cannot do a fully digital approach. It has to be a phygital approach.
So the manpower has to be there on the ground along with the borrower before the funds are disbursed.
Absolutely, absolutely. You need to have feet on street to collect information, to verify information, and then educate them about what is it that they're getting into. What is it that they will do with this money? How are they going to generate income out of this money, and how are they going to repay? Repay. That's the most important part.
So also, Mayur, it must have taken a great bit of learning and a culture that has to be created across Moneybox, because it has to trickle down to the last guy who's talking to the borrower. So the passion to lend to MSMEs has to be throughout the organization, and I'm sure there has been a top-down approach to this, where you've asked your people who are actually talking to the borrowers to also understand the business in detail, and that's how a healthy book has been built.
Absolutely. I think culture is top down, as we say. It has to be driven from the top, and we have more than 500 people on rolls, and these are all our employees. There's no outsourcing of any activity that we do, because we feel it's very important to understand the end-to-end life cycle of the customer, and for that, you need to have your own people on the ground, and that is how, for each and every employee that comes into the organization, is baptized in terms of the culture that we follow, in terms of the customer services that we need to be obsessed about, in terms of understanding his businesses, in terms of understanding where his cash flows are coming. It is all about cash flows. And as you said at the start, that we don't do consumption loans, because that is not something that we believe in. We believe that we want to generate hundreds and thousands of micro entrepreneurs who kind of generate further employment, and that is how I think the economy takes goes forward. And all these people, when they come in, they're given a fair understanding of what we do, how we do the technology, what is it that we need to get to be able to onboard a borrower on our platform.
Right. So speaking about the impact and the impact that you've created in the MSME micro entrepreneur segment, I think more than 20,000 women entrepreneurs have been funded by Moneybox over the last 5 years. I'm sure it must have been a very judicious call, because women entrepreneurs tend to be more credit worthy and credit prudent. How do you see this scaling up to create further impact in this particular segment?
So Rahul, what we do is, so some of it is by design and some of it is by accident, because the fact that when if you look at our borrower segment, I think more than 65% of our borrowers are cattle borrowers.
Okay.
So basically, cattle is a business which is run out of their backyard, and
In the
in the
houses.
houses, you have three, four, five, depending on the size of the cattle that you can fund. These are typically kept in house, and then you kind of generate income out of those cattle. And when something is in house, I think the female of the house, or the lady of the house, gets involved in the business, and that is how we feel that this is an important aspect to take care of. And then we went ahead and consciously brought them on our loans, as a borrower, because we feel that and it's proven beyond doubt that women borrowers are more disciplined in terms of
Manage the finances
manage
and
the
credit
finances.
much
They
better.
manage the finances much better, and that is what we've seen in our data, whatever data that we have, that the repayment history or the track record of women borrowers is typically better than the male borrowers, and that is why we encourage, whenever we are lending to a family, we encourage the women borrower to come on board as a co-borrower, so that they are aware of what is the borrowing happening in the family, and there is a discipline around repayment of those loans. Yeah.
Interesting, because the whole family is now involved, because the business is again a family business, and everybody knows what's happening, and they probably push towards that larger goal of bettering their livelihoods. That's what impact funding is all about, that you move people from a segment of society to a better segment of society where their livelihoods are improved, where their spending is improved, and also the income generation has grown significantly.
So, Rahul, what we have done is, when we started this company Moneybox, we said that we not only do lending, and lending is just going to be one part of our objective. The larger objective is to kind of strive towards financial inclusion, the impact, and actually creating an impact on the ground in terms of creating the whole ecosystem around lending. So let's say when we lend, so that is the core part that we do. Let's say in case of our cattle borrowers, so what we have done is we have hired vet doctors in our branches, and we said that this is a free service available to each and every cattle borrower. So he doesn't have to worry about going if something goes wrong with his cattle, if there's some problem with the cattle. All that he needs to do, he just needs to pick up a phone and call my
and reach out to
reach out to
MoneyBox.
Moneybox. My guy is there, always on a call, helping him in terms of cattle management, the feed stock, the vaccination program that government runs. We make them aware. We make him aware, each and every borrower aware that these are the vaccination programs run by the government. We also help them understand the cattle yield, how to improve your cattle yield. Ultimately, these are earning assets for them, and we help them improve their earning assets. And that is how we are building an ecosystem around lending. We are saying that, okay, fine, we'll do lending, that is a core activity, but we'll also kind of provide this ancillary services free of cost, so that our borrowers benefit from that services.
Definitely. So when you look at larger corporations, also the bankers tend to get involved in strategy, consulting them on better managing the finances around this one, because that's an ecosystem that's already available. But for the rural borrowers and people who are not having that large credit exposure, I think this kind of service definitely helps. And I think during this time when there is a lot of talk about the lumpy virus being spread across, I think that's one service from Moneybox which must have impacted the borrowers and helped them really well to understand how they can work around this calamity that they're
Oh
facing.
yes, I think it came in very handy. Even we were positively surprised the kind of impact these services are having on our borrowers. And when this outbreak happened, and this was to an extent predominant in Rajasthan and neighboring states. But what we did is proactively, we went out and we made them aware of this disease. We made them what is it that they need to do to be able to kind of beat this. And our vet doctors called each and every customer. We sent out flyers, we sent out information, we sent out videos out to them, saying that this is something that you need to be aware of. This is something which can impact your cattle. And I can very proudly say today that less than 1% of our customers are impacted by this disease. Whereas if you look at some of the governmental statistics, a huge population of cattle is impacted, but we managed to contain that impact within the organization just because of the fact that we had these people who reached out to our borrowers proactively and made them aware of this disease and the steps to be taken.
When you are in the thick and thin with the borrower, I think that relationship is far outgrowing the number of years that you are going to be with them. So the second cycle, the third cycle, or for whatever, whenever credit needs improve, you are already available to fund them for their larger need. Today, your ticket sizes are typically sub 5
That's
lakhs,
right.
right? And when the borrower's livelihood and the business improve, they might need a funding which is more than 5 lakhs. And then relationship is built, and you are already ready to fund them. I'm sure
Absolutely,
that's how.
and the nail on the head in terms of the way we are looking at this model. Also, what we did is we are catching them young. So the moment they come out of the MFI borrowings, 1 lakh, 1.5 lakhs, we kind of start identifying those borrowers and we start funding them. And we want them to be with us for a foreseeable future. Till the time we are able to serve them. So 1 lakh to 3 lakh journey to 5 lakh, now 7 lakh, and then 10 lakh, and that we do very consciously. We say that you be with us, and if your repayment history is good, if your track record is there for us to see, you don't need to go anywhere. And and top of that, we're providing you these services. So lending has always been a relationship business. It's a commodity. We say it's a commodity, but at the end of the day, it is a relationship between a borrower and the lender. And if that relationship is strong enough, the trust is there in that relationship, I don't think so the borrower will actually look out for anything else or anybody else in terms of borrowing.
So we've seen that, right? Non-relationship based only consumption funding has created many problems for the economy as well. I mean, the government has come back and taken definite steps in digital lending as well. But this kind of phygital lending is time proven because, as you rightly said, it is all relationship based funding. When you meet the borrower, when the borrower meets the guy who's giving out the fund, and then you convert this physical transaction to a digital asset is where we are creating the data. I mean, you guys are creating a lot of data from the borrowers to profiling them in terms of income, expenses, their livelihoods, their demographics, everything coming together. I think it will be a super enriched set of data where this will be then used to put better credit products for them and better consumption products as well tomorrow when they are in terms of their probably ancillary services, as you said, can be given.
So all we've not even started in terms of what we can do with this set of borrowers. I think this is just the first step in terms of bringing them into the credit fold. Making them aware that this is something, the power of credit. If they use it rightly, I think it can work wonders in terms of their income, their lifestyles, the whole ecosystem. And we have seen that almost 40% of our borrowers come back for a repeat loan, which means that there have been a very high percentage of borrowers who have used this money to generate further income from their assets and then come back and then generate more. So that is a very very healthy sign that we see. And more than that, I think what we are doing is we are making them aware that if you do it right, there is a plethora of options available to you when you actually want a higher loan. Build that credit history, transact only through banking channels, use the digital means available to you, UPI and other digital means to repay your loan, so that there is a footprint which is created over a period of time. It takes time. It takes 2 years, 3 years to kind of do that. But once you do that, the opportunities open up for you. There are a lot of small finance banks. There are a lot of other NBFCs who are chasing these customers.
But they don't know how to reach this customer, right? It's the hard work is to reach them and service them. And once the profiles are created, then probably the banks would step in. But till today, they don't see the segment as a segment that is uh, easily approachable for them. Right? Probably that's where co-lending also comes in. Mayur.
Yes, absolutely. I think, and then banks have realized this. I think, and RBI has done a fantastic job in terms of opening up this mode of lending, collaboration between banks and larger NBFCs and NBFCs who are niche in terms of catering to certain segments. And I think it's evolving. Obviously, there are challenges, regulatory and otherwise. Technology is a big challenge in terms of how do you integrate, because everybody has their own platform, and that's something. But I think people are getting smarter, innovative in terms of how they are doing. There are platforms which are coming up which connect, both the lenders and through which they do. And we have also kind of embraced this, very very highly in terms of how we want to go ahead, because the demand is huge. So how do you cater to that demand?
You can scale very fast. And as you said, definitely the whole ecosystem has to tie up. Both the lenders have to tie up, the technology has to tie up, and the borrower has to be made aware. And then you can also increase your ticket size. You can increase the number of people that you're addressing in this particular segment.
Yeah. So as I said, almost 50% of the population does not
Is unbanked.
borrow at this point in time. So there's a huge opportunity, and it's there is the population which is hungry for credit, but it's something that somebody be able to reach out to them. Somebody should be able.
Definitely, the stats say that, right? 23 lakh crore is the total credit gap, and only that 10% is getting served. 90% is the market that is definitely open to, I would say, Moneybox as well to scale to that level. And I'm sure you'll be able to have a far-reaching, credit access provided to the borrowers in
No,
this
no,
space.
absolutely. I think we need more than 100 money boxes. I think that is the amount of demand that is
Sure.
needed. I think once more and more players start coming in, I think it helps the ecosystem, right? It helps. Competition aside, I think
Best practices.
yes, best
coming.
practices come in. You learn from each other, as you said, best practices, and more than anything else, I think it is the need of the hour that we provide that credit to the right guy. And everything is today concentrated in tier one and tier two in terms of credit. So 91% of the total credit is to the tier one and tier two. I think we need to get away from tier one and tier two and get to the real Bharat, India, as we say. I think the real need of the hour is that we develop that part of the ecosystem, and it's everybody's responsibility. We are doing our bit through our own means, and through co-lending is something now that we have started. Now there are a lot of partners who are approaching us to do co-lending as well as other means of partnerships. We are getting into a lot of partnerships, and that is helping the ecosystem. So we'll be able to scale fast. We'll be able to bring more borrowers, more people into the formal credit fold, and that helps the ecosystem, right? At the end of the day.
Definitely it does. See, these borrowers are also very prudent in terms of how they spend money, right? And there is these micro entrepreneurs are the lifeline. When you look at what happened with so many things where digital adoption was pushed by the government and finally by the pandemic, there was an increased adoption, and more than I think about 60-65% of transactions from the micro entrepreneurs moved to a digital mode. That's the kind of data that is available now. We understand, we can easily understand the spend and consumption. But now taking an approach that actually works with them, understanding their cash flows, building that data set, and then moving to credit, it definitely is a great thing to do. Speaking of again, how the impact has been created, I'm sure you would have some great stories on certain borrowers that you've personally seen that they were not getting funds, but then Moneybox came into the picture.
uh, many stories, and I think that one story which kind of stands out is of a widow in Devas, and this was some 2 years back, just before the pandemic, and she lost her husband, and they had a small business, a kirana store, and there was nobody to fund them. So they approached us, and kind of we understood the business,
The
we
need.
understood the need, and we kind of as a test we gave her a 1 lakh rupee loan to manage that business. She has two children, school going children. So we did that, and to our surprise, she ran it beautifully. And next 2 years, in spite of the pandemic, no, she ran it beautifully. She came back and repaid the whole amount. Now she took a second loan from us for 2 lakh rupees. So she bought a small space just beside the existing space that she had, and she started something different. And that is a beautiful story, because we feel that the trust that we reposed in her, and she repaid back, and now she's growing, and then children are in a better state, they go to a better school, the ecosystem has developed, the incomes have doubled, and she's very grateful to Moneybox, and we are also grateful to her, saying that okay, fine, you've kind of uh, reposed,
The
so the
faith
trust is
that you
faith,
had in the borrower
right?
has been, duly justified by them.
Justified, yeah. And looking at her, I think there are many such borrowers. So this is just one story. There are so many other stories from all parts of uh, India where we operate. Multiple everyday stories which we keep encountering on a day-to-day basis. There are so many positive impact that happens by our funding. It really heartens us in terms of it really fills our heart with pride and joy, saying that we are doing something. Obviously, this is we're doing it for profit. This is not some we're not doing it for charity, but yes, we have to take care of our shareholders and our investors. But yes, we are doing it in a responsible way, in a very sustainable way.
Yeah, and also I think revenue numbers is one definite measure of success. But these success stories do add up to that momentum and vision that you have, right? You started out with, and it fulfills that satisfaction you have of working towards a financial inclusion goal and doing better credit delivery.
That's right. So absolutely, I think that was our mission and vision from start. Saying that we will be the go-to financial institution on NBSE for this rural India, and slowly and slowly, we started with one branch. Today, we have close to 50 branches. 50 branches.
Commendable thing, and
Yeah,
really,
in spite of the 2 years of pandemic, we have not slowed down. And that has only strengthened our resolve in terms of further accelerating the journey. And we feel that there's so much to do, and so much little time, in a sense. There's a huge population out there who is hungry for credit, and we are doing whatever we can. As I said, we need more people coming into this space, and
I think you're creating an ecosystem. You've got lenders on one side, you've got borrowers on one side, you've got as you said, ancillary services like veterinary, and then farming. I'm sure that's also a division that you've started where you're advising people to double their revenues in terms of having different crops put around their farms.
so this was the initiative we recently started. We stumbled upon this, and we said that why not try this agroforestry. So we searched for a partner, a CSR partner who could do this for us, and thankfully found one. And very gracefully they agreed to do this for us. And then what we did is we identified borrowers who had farmlands. We said that this is an additional source of income which you can generate without any cost to you. So we will plant trees, fruit bearing trees. You need to take care of it for 2 years. We will take the cost of maintenance as well. So you don't have to do anything. All that you need to do is you need to plant trees on your boundaries, and these trees will start bearing fruits in a couple of years, and the income that you generate out of those trees will be completely yours. And this will completely, we believe, we've just started, we still have to see the impact, but we believe that if this is a success, this will completely change the economic background of all these people that have been chosen to plant trees. And this is a beautiful initiative in terms of, because it helps in soil conservation, it helps in ecology
Yeah, everything
conservation.
and the whole. I mean, it's a full circle for them as well, right? And you are helping them to stay, do their businesses better. Otherwise, it's a. I mean, as a country, also we'd see a lot of urbanization, people moving to urban areas for employment, but providing such credit assistance in the rural areas also strengthens the rural economy, which you definitely need. As 47% of our population is there, but their share of the GDP is much smaller.
That's right.
And having a larger share, that side, I think it will balance out the not just the economy, even the ecosystem, our environment, and everything will be towards a better future for us.
Absolutely, and that is our endeavor, is to kind of create this ecosystem around lending, and then create this ancillary services products which benefit not only the borrower but the ecosystem around him. It creates the full ecosystem in terms of lending first, and then creates a better opportunity for him, for his family, and for the ecosystem.
So let's get a little more to understand. We've talked about how you're delivering credit. How is the collection mechanism around these MSME customers? Because sure, it is easier to lend, but difficult to collect. And how? What's the mechanism that you think is the best working for Moneybox Finance in terms of to maintain this credit stability for the borrower as well?
So I think what we've done is this feet on street team that we have. I think this is a great help in terms of collection as well, because obviously what has happened is the adoption of digital means in terms of
Digital
payments,
channels, yes.
digital channels, whether it is UPI or ACH or other mechanisms. So a large part of that collection happens through the digital means, and what we have seen is the digital adoption has increased 50% on a year-on-year basis. So that is actually helping us lower our collection cost. But a large part of it still needs to be collected on the ground, because people are still
They need
getting
flexibility.
flexibility. You need that flexibility. You just cannot say that completely will the collection mechanism will completely become digital. It has to be a mix of digital and then the physical approach. But what we are seeing is slowly and slowly, a large part of it is moving to digital channels, and we see that maybe next couple of years, through or 2 to 3 years, maybe more than 90-95% of our collection should be from a digital.
Yeah, so it's only a push, right? Collections is more persuasion than compulsion. So you need to pursue the borrower to be making the payment on time. Digital option is one thing, and but also speaking to them, understanding. So when if you ask me, a micro entrepreneur is more like an MFI loan
Yeah.
again, because you need to disburse money to a business, but work like an MFI. You need to have that kind of personal touch and feel to make sure that the collection is coming back on time. And it's also, I'm sure there is, if there's one entrepreneur in one area where you funded, you'll have a couple of more to create that full circle for them as well. Maybe Moneybox Finance, when we look at 2019, you had about two partner lenders on board, but today you have more than 20 lender partners. I think that's a significant improvement in the kind of interest lenders have in you, and that's proven.
True. I think, and we are very grateful to all our lenders. I think the trust that they reposed in us in terms of how do we manage that money that they've given us, the business model. So that is in a way a validation of the business model. That is in a sense validation of what we do on the ground. And not only that, I think one of the recognition that came was from the foundation, Dell Foundation. In fact, they showed interest in terms of carrying out a study of the social impact that we are doing on the ground, and they're doing a 2 year study with us, covering almost 400, 500 borrowers, and mapping their journey from the day they borrowed, and then 2 years till the time they repaid us back. So we are in the midst of that study, and it really feels nice when some of the global organizations kind of recognize our work, and they want to do some kind of a social impact study on the impact that we are doing.
It's a validation. I mean, it's a fruitful value. I mean, we don't need validation because we see it every day. But then when it comes through such a detailed study, it definitely gives a lot of data points.
Yes, it's true, and it gives a lot of data points. It also gives us insights in terms of what are some of the global benchmarks in terms of how do they look at impact. What is it that they study. And then we have also started capturing some of this information. We always knew that we are doing this, but
Yeah, I'm
but
seeing.
capturing that information in a structured format, also helps in terms of analyzing that data, and then making sure that we are doing the right things. If we're missing out on something.
Correct. I mean, if this such borrower has to have this kind of a data set, data information, but if it's not having, then you know immediately that there's something not right, and then you need to meet the borrower, talk to him, or understand what's happening. Basically, again, checking the end use and the borrower health in total.
Absolutely.
Also, if you look at the larger landscape, right, MSMEs have been a very interesting and have created a lot of interest globally. So not just in India, but even Southeast Asia. If you look, MSME as a fundable segment or a fundable borrower segment, I would say, has definitely increased. In India, it's such a large economy. We have so many people. I think this market is fantastic. It is moving towards becoming, I think, one of the most interesting spaces for all the lenders to watch out for. And I think if people are not lending to MSMEs, they're definitely losing out a huge opportunity, because these are the income generating and the building blocks of what we want to achieve in the next 10 years. So for 2030 vision, I think and without MSMEs, there would not be the kind of growth that we will see.
I think they are the core. I think they are the main engine of the economic growth. I think a lot of economic activity happens there. They contribute almost one third to the global to the India's GDP, and almost 64% to the Indian exports. I think they are very important, cog in the wheel. I think it's been ignored for far too long. I think the interest is coming back, and I think with the advent of technology and the uh, and the ways and means to reach out to them, I think has obviously increased, and that has also given the confidence. And there's a lot of risk capital available today. Let's be honest about it. In the last 3-4 years, I think there's a lot of risk capital which has come, which is ready to back, organizations who are ready to fund, or work with this kind of MSMEs, right? So that gives confidence for to a lot of entrepreneurs to kind of take this risk and build something around it, build a workable and a sustainable model around the MSME funding.
Right? And also, there is this borrow to lend, which is a mindset change that is happening today. So it's not just your own capital that you can grow your business with, but you can borrow, be prudent about it, understand how to use it well, and then put it to business and grow. So I think that's an approach that we will see greatly improved in the next 5 years and 10 years, when a lot of MSMEs will move into the formal credit fold.
Absolutely, no doubts about it.
Fantastic. So I'm sure this conversation must have intrigued a lot of minds and created a lot of interest in the MSME segment. Lending Insights by All Cloud will keep doing more episodes on this segment as well, and also talking about the lending industry at large. So look forward to seeing you again.
Thank you.